Welcome back to the official Miskin channel. We're back again for another interview. I'm Elliot. With me I've got
Daniella
and
Zara.
And our guest this week is Francis. So Francis, how are you today?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm so happy to be here.
So I guess the first question is, can you give us a bit of an insight into just what it is you do?
Okay, what I do, I'm the founder and chief executive of Reform, Restore, Respect charity. It's a Kent-based charity, and I go into all the schools across Kent doing assembly talks to give awareness and education to young people, students, not to get involved in a life of crime.
Okay, right. Go on, Zara. Sorry, go on.
So with like these talks and stuff, what like specifics do you talk about? Like, do you talk about how to like prevent stuff, what to do, what not to do? Just a bit more on that.
Yeah, so we are all about early intervention. So it's prevention work. So we talk about anti-bullying. We talk about anti-gangs. We talk about county lines. We don't want kids to get involved in county lines. We talk about peer pressure. We talk about offensive weapons. We don't want kids picking up knives. And then we talk about the consequences of having a criminal record, how that can impact on your life as well. So it's all prevention.
You mentioned county lines there. Can you give some insight to the people that won't necessarily know what that means or what that's about?
So county lines is a term. It's a police term. Police came out the word county lines, and that's the urban super gangs like London, Birmingham, Manchester, who are spreading, going to all the unaffected countrysides. So, for example, those from London who are in a gang are spreading from London, coming away from London, and they're going to previously unaffected areas like Essex, Kent, Surrey, Sussex, Hampshire, Thames Valley, and these are all the surrounding counties around London. They're going there to take that criminal life or drug dealing into those areas. That's what county lines is.
Okay, right. Daniella, do you want to get a question off our sheet from our lovely... We've got some questions from some of the digital journalism level 3 year 1 students because lots of people were very interested. So Daniella, do you want to nick one off the sheet?
Of course. So our first question is going to come from Laurel, and she's asked, what's the best part of Reform, Restore and Respect?
The best part of it?
Yes.
For me, the best part of it is arriving in the school, setting up my laptop, IT equipment, PowerPoint, to the projector, and taking the microphone to actually talk to students. That's my dream, that's my passion. And in essence, it's a bit like an artist or a singer going on stage to sing or rap to a big crowd. At that moment there, before my talk start in any assembly, I'm in another world, cloud 9. Yeah, definitely.
Euphoria almost.
Absolutely.
Probably like the really nervous excitement type thing. Like, you've done this quite a lot, right?
8 years I've been doing it for.
Damn, that's a lot.
And I've seen almost 30,000 school students.
Wow.
In 8 years.
Do you see? That's insane. Right, Daniella, do you want to go to the bottom question?
Yes. So Ben has asked, do you think that the punishment is harsh enough for those people who are carrying all these offensive weapons?
At the moment, so the sentencing law is that it's anything from 6 months minimum in prison up to 4 years, plus a fine sometimes, and that's the new 2-strike sentencing for carrying a knife. It was less before. It's been upped to 4 years. So yeah, I think it's sent a big message. I think it's right because knives are dangerous. It take lives, and knife is one of the easiest weapon anybody can get their hands on. Literally. Is in our kitchens. We can open a kitchen drawer and take a knife, So yeah, I think the messaging to be clear that it's not okay to carry a knife because it's dangerous. It can take somebody's life, just one stab.
Can you explain what else comes under the offensive weapon bracket? Because obviously there's knives, but what else comes under that for people that might not quite understand it?
Literally, offensive weapon is anything that is adapted to use or to cause injury or harm to someone else by the person carrying it. There are some things that from the word go is already offensive weapon. Like any blade or knife over 3 inches, you're breaking the law. Knuckle dusters, a flick knife, a rumble knife, all these things are offensive weapons from the word go. But there are other things like a table knife, literally a pen in your school rucksack or in your pencil case. These things are not offensive weapons, but it can become an offensive weapon if somebody uses a table knife or a pen with the intent to go and stab somebody, and then that pen or table knife, which from the word go, it's not an offensive weapon, but it then becomes an offensive weapon if you want to harm or got intent to harm somebody with it. So that is the difference, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What made you want to start your charity, and what made you want to help people? Because you've been doing it for 8 years. It's quite big. You've helped a lot of people. What made you want to start that? What
made me want to start is when I got my prison sentence. It was my first time in prison. I was given 9-year sentence. It's a long time in prison. It's a big, massive shock to my own system, my own belief systems. And when I was in prison during that time, I felt I was asking myself questions. What is the one thing that would have stopped me getting into trouble? And I thought, you know what? If I had an ex-prisoner or an ex-offender come to my secondary school in Wood Green, North London, to come into assembly, like what I'm doing now, and I heard that message, I think that would be enough to stop me getting into trouble. Because growing up as a teenager, a student, I knew nothing about what it's actually like to be in prison, the impact of having a criminal record, how that affects your life, drugs. I knew nothing, I was quite naive. I knew nothing about all of this. So that's what made me want to start the charity, to do something that I thought could have helped me that I never had. So that's how the idea came from. So as soon as I came out of prison, I started setting it up.
Yeah, so you mentioned there how it was something that you never had, and you also mentioned about how if you did have it, you don't think you'd follow the same path. Is that part of the reason you're so passionate about it, because you've been down that path, you've experienced it, and you know the reality of it?
100%, absolutely. So I'm not talking, when I do assemblies for schools, colleges, I'm not talking from university books. It's real life stories, a real life experience. That's what I'm bringing to the assembly. So I think that makes it even more impactful for the students. I'm not talking like a police officer. I'm not talking like a social worker, probation officer, a teacher. It's real, it's raw. It's coming from my life experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
You mentioned your prison sentence. What was that for? What was the charge?
So the charge was for kidnapping, blackmail, and drugs.
Wow. Oh, okay.
This is in your late teens, right?
Yeah.
Damn.
How did you get involved in that? How has it got to a point where I assume you're going to school? How's it gone from a point where you're going to school, doing GCSEs and stuff, to kidnap, blackmail, drugs? How did you progress to that point?
So how it progressed to that point is, I guess, growing up in that area where I used to live in London, North London, Tottenham, that type of gang lifestyle behaviour is all around me on my council estate where I lived.
It's almost the norm.
It's the norm, yeah. But as a young boy growing up, I didn't want to be like that. Even though it was all around me, and I did my best to fight it off as long as I could. This is why it's very strange that I got in trouble in my late teens. Normally start earlier for a lot of teenagers, because I was fighting it off. But the gang leader actually groomed me into the gang. He was super nice to me. He used to give me money, he used to give me jeans, trainers, and he was a lot older than me. He was in his 30s, to the point I had to call him uncle. It was like that. And then when they introduced me to that life, was that way of life, that lifestyle, and I thought, oh, maybe I can make money that easy and not be like mum and dad, pay taxes. I thought the grass was greener, but it wasn't. So that's how it all happened. And it all happened very, very quickly. 18 months it took for me to be in that lifestyle, that criminal lifestyle. In that 18 months, I was locked up for 9 years. So it's all short-lived as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you grew up in a quite rough area. Did your parents know what was going on with this gang leader? Like, was they aware?
The signs were there for my parents. They were challenging me because I was talking different. I was talking more with slang, street slangs, the lingo. I was dressing different, and I was wearing jewelry, and they're not buying me those stuff. I've given up on my job. I've stopped going to university. So all the signs were there for my parents, and they were challenging me. Like, what is going on with you? You've changed so much. Who you hang around with? But I thought, at that age, I had chip on my shoulder. Mom, dad, you talk too much, drop me out. And I walk out as they're talking to me, as they're trying to challenge me, And then it all happened very quickly before they even got intervention in support, help for me. One of the things they used to say to me was, Francis, we're going to put you back on a plane and we're going to send you to Ghana, our native country, and you can go to school in Ghana or go to further education in Ghana, rather. And I was like, how are you gonna put somebody as big as me onto an airplane? How are you gonna get him to the airport? I'm not going. So I was very, very defiant, rebellious. But the signs were there. Were there.
Do you notice yourself changing, or is it just kind of naturally happen? You just didn't really care.
No, I did. I know. If I say I didn't notice myself changing, I'll be lying. I did know I was changing, but it was something new to me. I've never experienced before, and I thought it was a buzzing. It was desire for adventure, excitement. It's all of those things. I know this notorious gang leader that everyone's scared of in the area, and for me to even be seen next to him, that gave me a sense of pride. Sending messages to kids that used to beat me up, bully me in school, like, look who I know now. It's all of those things. That's how I process it back then.
So was part of the whole gang sort of thing, was part of that the sense of now you're with people who have status? Could you say you after like the status of it? And
yeah, absolutely. It was all of that. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And quite often what we are talking about now, what I'm describing, is how other people who get into gangs now, sometimes they'll go through the same thing as me. That's what they're processing, and we need to challenge those distorted thoughts or thought process. Actually, no, this is the dangers, which I never had. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you want to go to another question, Daniella?
Yeah. So, based on your own experiences, how you explain that this the gang leader kind of groomed you into it, do you think that that's why so many teenagers get involved with gangs, because they're seeing all these positives, that they're getting things that they wouldn't get by themselves? Do you think that's why they're trying to get into it, because they think, oh well, I'm getting all this different stuff, it can't be bad?
Exactly. So they see the materialistic side of it, having always the latest iPhone, wearing designer clothes, the latest Nike trainers, having the best of all this materialistic stuff. That's how they see it. They don't see the bigger picture, that, you cannot keep living like that on a long term. Actually, that way of life is short term, is short lived, and there's only certain destination you're going to end up: death, being killed, or prison. They don't see it, or having a criminal record. So yeah, you're absolutely right, definitely.
Is that why you're so keen on preventing people from getting into it? Because you've served your time, you've understood what it means, so you're trying to pass it on, that you don't want anything like that to happen to anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's what you just said, is that is prevention or early intervention. I don't want young people to think it's cool, it's okay to be in that way of life, because it's not. It's horrible. And once it happens and you're living it, you're going to hate it. I'm speaking from somebody who's actually lived it. I've been there. I'm telling you, it's not good. It's not cool. And that's what I'm trying to portray. And that's the message I'm trying to get to young people. And also, if I don't do this work, for me, it's my calling. The work I do, I think is my calling in life. I'm supposed to do this. If I didn't do it, and the young people will not know the message. I've got a lot of experience in my head. I've experienced something that if I don't share it, and I think I'm being very, I will be being a very selfish man if I don't share it with other kids. I want them to take a leaf out of my book. So actually, I've heard it from somebody who's experienced what I want to do, and if it's like that, I don't want to go there, and that's what I want to achieve. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, can I take you back to jail?
Mm-hmm.
When you heard your 9-year sentence,
oof,
how did that feel to know that this 18 months was over, your whole status was over, your big persona had gone, because you're now going into a place where everyone in there is a big persona? How did that affect you? How did you feel with that?
Okay. I'm going to take you back a little bit, and then let's reverse it a little bit.
Yeah.
Leading up to it. So, being called, be on trial, we've been found guilty by a jury. The main players have all been given 12-year sentences. I was the baby of the group. I got the lowest sentence, which was 9 years, which is still long enough.
9 years is more than long enough.
Oh, it really hit me. So the judge is now passing sentence to all of us. I went last, so I got the 9 years. My legs wobbled. I cried like a baby. You know, when I heard 9 years, I cried like a baby. And then my girlfriend at the time was pregnant with my first child, my son. And at the end of that trial, I just got 9 years. My girlfriend just giving birth to a son. And for the fact that, or knowing that I'm not going to have life with him, I'm going to prison for a long time, was like another added sentence for me. You know, so it really hit home. And then we've gone to prison, like you said, you know, that being in prison, that persona, that everyone's on the same level play field, you know. Yeah, there's no weapons in prison, there's no guns, no knives, there's nothing like that in prison. You know, you could be the baddest, toughest gangster on the outside world, on the streets. Once you're in prison, you're on the same level as everyone, because you have to fight with your hands. There's no weapons as such in prison.
Yeah.
You know, so everyone on the same level. And it really hit home. You know, I thought, wow, so this is what prison's really like. And I had no idea. Even going to trial, the sentencing, I've never been to court before. I've never been on trial before. I didn't even take it seriously. You know, we had the 12 jurors sitting down, listening to the case. I was looking at them, I was smiling and not laughing. I didn't take it seriously. You know,
Yeah.
it was a very serious case. I was really in trouble and I didn't see it. For me, it was like a film, a movie. That's how I took it. I wasn't serious enough about my defense either.
And then the second it was announced, it sort of all
That's when it hit home.
hit home.
When I heard the 9 years from the judge, that's when it hit home. You know, when you are such on a high and then you come back down.
But, yeah.
It was like that.
So
And it was tears.
What about these like other players? You said there were other people like in the court with
Yeah,
you.
that's-
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I was gonna ask.
how are they processing this like jury time trial?
So they are better criminals than I was, obviously. They've had so many court cases, so many convictions. They've been to prison in and out. They're used to all that process. And I wasn't. And they took it more seriously, I think, than I did. But one thing that struck me was on the day of sentencing, they got 12 years, 11 years, and then I got 9 years. And they were blowing kisses to the gallery, to their family. Be home soon, don't worry. They didn't even care. And then I got 9 years. I'm sobbing, crying like a baby. And they hit me on my shoulder, come on, Francis, man up. They didn't even care. And that's when I also realised, wow, I am not like these guys.
was that sort of
I'm cut from different cloth.
was that sort of like a wake up moment? And sort
It
of
was.
a light bulb.
It was
So-
a light bulb
so-
moment. It was, definitely.
So how was your time in prison itself?
Oh,
So
it's horrible. It was horrible.
but
Prison is horrible. I will not wish prison on my worst enemy. Just the fact that you are locked up in a cell 6 foot by 6 foot, sharing a toilet with the other two people, you know, sharing a sink. When they want to go and forgive my language, you have to put up with the smell. They're allowed to smoke in the cell. I don't smoke. I've never smoked in my life. I became a passive smoker, inhaling all the tobacco smell. I hated all of that. You know, you have to sit on your bed and eat. There's a little 12-inch TV that you have to watch, and your cellmate just argue with you all the time for control, that remote control, who want to watch what channel. It's horrible. The cells are cold. Most prisons are built like a Victorian type prisons. It's freezing. There's no heaters in the cell. Oh, prison is just the thought about it and just describing it. You know, I knew someone like myself will never see prison again after I get released. I knew it'd be my first time, my last time. You know, because I knew I don't want to be that bad. I don't want to go back to that environment because I didn't like it. How people come out, commit crime, go back, come out, commit crime, go back is beyond me. Because I had one shot at it, one taste, and I knew I wasn't going back to that environment.
was
all
it
new to
almost
me.
a culture shock?
It was a culture shock. Like, whoa, you know. And one of the things I noticed as well when I was growing up and before I went to prison, like boys, if a boy like a girl, a boy will be the one that goes and talk to the girl, to ask them out, take them out for a date. One of the shocks I had as well when I came out, as it had reversed. Now girls were chatting up boys.
Yeah.
I thought that was a shock to me as well. That so much has changed. You know, it's digital age and life has changed, music has changed, and like when I went in, it was garage music. When I came out, that was old fashioned, gone. You know, it's so much has changed. Films, everything has changed. You know, TV has changed.
When you got out and you've had your like readjustment period, you've got used to things again. How soon after getting out did you know that you had to set up your charity?
Oh, straight away. I had plans to set up my charity in prison.
You were that dead set on it.
I was really set on it that this is what I want to do, and I had plans what I want to do, but it's getting the support, knowing how, who will fund it, donors back it, you know, getting into schools, getting college, having a relationship with all these different places, you know, to get the bookings in. But I knew this is what I wanted to do.
Coming back to getting out and seeing technology and stuff. Would you say when you got out, you like you just said, you've already had plans for the charity? Would you say when you got out and you saw how far technology came, that sort of changed slightly what you wanted to do with the charity? Because you talked about things like the digital age. Now people can get involved in crimes digitally and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Would you say you almost had to readjust your plan?
A little bit. Like, for example, when I talk about bullying was really physical, happening. But now with the digital age, it's all happening online now. On these social media platforms, that was something different. So stuff like that, I had to actually go and look and read up on that and do research on it, you know, to understand it better, because it has advanced while I was in prison. So things like that have changed. Of course, crimes are being committed as well with a mobile phone, you know, especially drug dealers, you know, how they use these phones nowadays is crazy. So yeah, definitely. I mean, having a website for the charity, you know, websites wasn't really a big thing when I went in, but when I came out, everyone's got a website. You know, it's a massive marketing tool for businesses and charities and organizations. So I said, oh, that wasn't part of my plan to have a website, but I mean to have a website for the charity, you know, Twitter account. So yeah, all of these things I wasn't thinking of in prison. I knew what I wanted to do, set up the charity, but I didn't think of having a Twitter account, having a website, having a Facebook account. All these things I didn't think of at the beginning. So I had to readjust to go with the modern time, with the digital age, definitely.
So you set up the charity. How was it giving your first assembly? Can you remember the very first time you stood in front of people and told your story?
Yes, I can remember. It was at college.
Like?
It was at college in Maidstone, Mid-Kent College on Tunbridge Road. That's my first assembly. You know, that college actually is very similar to this college. And yeah, it was amazing. And at that time, like when I do my assemblies now, I've got a PowerPoint presentation. So it's some visual for students to see, and I can show them things. But that first assembly, there was no PowerPoint. It was just raw, coming from my heart, from my mouth, just talking. You know, I had nothing visual to show students, you know. Yeah, so again, this is how times have moved on. Now we've got a PowerPoint, we've got a laptop, we've got a projector, we've got a microphone, we've got all this equipment that we need to do the assemblies. But again, I didn't think of all of that. So yeah, it's a lot different now, definitely.
Just out of curiosity, have you given a talk to like your own secondary school? Have you like gone back?
St. Thomas More Roman Catholic School? No, I haven't. You know, and it's something that is always at the back of my mind to go back to my secondary school or even and primary school in Tottenham. But for me, it's the distance of driving, because I live in Kent, I live in West Kent. It's the distance of driving there back to Kent. And I need to be normally, because I job share the charity with Westheath School. I'm the assistant head of residential care at Westheath School. And normally I'm supposed to start work at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm thinking, if I go that further out into London, would I get back into Kent to get back to work on time? I probably won't. And that's what puts me off getting back. But it's something I really wanted to do. Quite often I've gone on their website, my old school website, to find out if some of my old teachers, when I went to school in the 90s, are they still there? You know, is there anyone that I know? And I do a little research. Yeah, I would love to. You know, I would love to go back to my old school. I think that'd be very powerful, actually, for the kids who go there now to see somebody come back.
Hear a story from your estate, from where you've grown up.
Where I've grown up.
You've sat in those classrooms, you've gone through.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Amazing. Yeah, definitely. I would love to do that. It's on my to-do list. But I just concentrate on Kent because I live in Kent.
Yeah.
So maybe for like the future of reform sort of movies, like to go out.
Yeah,
Because you said like the gangs are like they're coming out of London.
they are. Yeah.
So maybe that kind of be like a next step.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I don't go to, aside from my own school that I went to in London, one reason why I don't go to London schools, there's a lot of initiatives and projects similar to Reform, Restore, Respect. So many of them in London who are doing similar work to me. So I always felt London's okay with such preventative initiatives like this, but none of them want to travel all these miles into Kent to do Kent schools. So it made Kent for me a very niche market for me. I'm the only one in Kent doing something like this. Or I'm the one with the relationship with all the schools, and they know the brand Reform, Restore, Respect quite well. But London, there's so many of them doing similar work. So I thought London schools are not missing out, but Kent needed something like this, which even gave me the drive and the impetus to set this up even more. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I'll chuck over to Daniella. More level 3 questions. Go on, Daniella. Thanks
So,
a lot.
going back to before you got involved with a gang,
Yeah.
do you wish that you had someone like what you're doing now for all the kids to tell you all these different things about what happens when you're in a gang and the consequences after that? Do you think that it would have influenced your decisions a little bit more and would have thought in your brain, hang on, this might not be as good? Do you wish you had someone like that to tell you?
I wish I had someone like that to tell me. I wish I had someone like me, like a Francis, coming to my school to do a talk like this. And yeah, that would have been amazing. I think that would have been enough to stop me having a criminal record, get into trouble. Because I listen well, I'm very switched on. And one of the biggest pain for me as well is, I lost out on my dream job. When I was young and I was asked, Francis, what do you want to be when you grow up? My ambition, the job I wanted to do was to become a criminal law barrister. I want to become a lawyer in criminal law. And now I can't practice in law because obviously I've got a criminal record. So I've lost out on that dream. And that's the importance of this talk. Literally it can change one person's life. So yeah, definitely.
Have you ever had anyone reach out and tell you the effect that you've had? Have you ever had people tell you that you have reached them, you have helped them?
Yeah, so quite often, so we go into schools or colleges like today. When I finish, there's feedback forms that everyone fill in to show us how much they've enjoyed it, the impact it's made on their life. So I think it's only 10 questions. On top of that, students will go home and go on our Facebook page for Reform, Restore, Respect, and they'll send me personal messages in inbox, to say thank you, what I got out of it, and we get all sorts of messages from that. Yeah, people do that. Some people will go home and Google Reform, Restore, Respect, find our Facebook page and send me messages. We get that all the time. I've had letters come from parents as well, where students have gone home and told their parents about an assembly talk they had, and their parents would then go on Google and find me and send me a message. Or I've had letters come through the post. We've had donations come to the charity from parents as well. So yeah, absolutely, we get that all the time.
So you go out and you do talks and stuff. If someone who is in a gang situation has heard your talk, is it possible for them to reach out for you for further advice?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll always respond back. Yeah, whether it's email or through inbox, private message on Facebook. Yeah, I'll always respond back, 100%, definitely. Because sometimes when you are in those type of theatres, an assembly style with loads of other students, there could be a student present who is pressing to ask me a question, but they feel shy not to ask the question because all their peers are around them. So they'll hold back. They rather want to talk to me on a private, on a one-to-one, and ask a question, but they don't want to do it in front of everyone. So yeah, absolutely.
Has any student actually told you their personal involvement with the gangs? If they were involved in the gang currently, what's the most shocking story you've been told?
Okay, about 4 years ago, we were in a school in Hextable near Swanley.
Yep.
I think it was called the Oasis Academy. It's closed now. It was changed name. And doing assembly just like I've been doing here at this college all week. And then while I was doing assembly, I think I touched a boy with my story, the information I was sharing. So assembly finished, we're packing up, I'm hanging around. No, I was hanging around for kids to come back and ask me questions. This kid came back and disclosed to me that he's got a gun in his house. A bit of coincidence, one of our trustees from our charity is a police officer. He's now retired as a police officer from Kent Police. He was with me that day, and he was still acting police officer at that time. So that information that boys shared about the gun, he then took it back to his police station. They did a search, a raid, and they retrieved that gun. And that's how it can happen. We took a gun off the street just from me doing the assembly. It made a kid disclose that to us. So yeah,
It's so close as well.
Yeah.
You don't actually realise like how close or active like they are.
yeah.
So talking about stuff like guns, how easy is it to walk out and get a gun? Because I mean, obviously everyone knows there are other countries with a lot lapser gun laws than ours, so it'd be easier. How I when someone says gun violence to me, I'll think of someone like America or something.
Yeah.
How easy is it to walk out on the streets of England and buy a firearm?
It should be very hard. It's not like a knife. You can just pick up a knife from anywhere. And most firearms come from other countries, imported in, quite often come from countries of war, where the war's over. And so those are guns. That's what comes from there into the country, import into the country. And people who want to buy guns, quite often they'll get from the internet as well. Because nowadays, on the internet, you can get anything on the internet.
Dark web.
Yeah, dark web, exactly. So it's like that. It's not easy to get a gun. This is why my generation, when I was in trouble, when I was in gangs, in my generation it was guns, if I'm honest with you. It wasn't knife crime. But now, because it's so hard for them to get guns, this is why they resort to knife crime.
How easy
Pick
was
up
it?
a knife.
How easy was it for you to get a knife then, back in when you were involved in gang activity? How easy was that?
In those days, so I'm talking about going back to the 1990s. So knife, when I've carried a knife, I bought it from like a garden shop. You can buy it like a lock knife. It was like that, and they wouldn't even ask for any ID. They'll just sell it to you because knife crime wasn't that out there like it is now. Yeah, it wasn't a problem, like it is now. But now you can't. I don't think you can get knives like that. Again, dark web. That's where people are buying the knives from. Yeah, it's quite sad. It's dangerous as well.
What about guns and stuff like that? So back in the 90s when you were involved in it, was it easier to get a gun then than
Well,
now?
back then, the gang leader who groomed me, he's the one that used to supply the guns, and he used to drive to Holland, Amsterdam. And those days, it was very easy to just drive through the borders, through Dover, Folkestone. You just flash a British passport, you through, they don't search you, And he used to drive there, buy guns, and bring it back to London.
So you literally just drive, pick up some handguns, drive back.
Drive back. That's how easy it was.
Was it like just handguns he brought in, or was it like other stuff?
No, it was just handguns.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Just a boot full of handguns.
Yeah, that's how easy it was. But now, again, it's tighter now. You can't do stuff like that. You get stopped at border control.
Yeah.
In Dover.
Yeah.
Or Folkestone. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Times have changed.
Yeah, they really have. So I guess my final question, because unfortunately we're running out of time,
Yeah, sure.
is if someone could take one thing away from Reform, Restore, Respect, what would you like that to be?
Don't commit any form of crime to have a criminal record. That would be the big thing for me, because I know how that affects your life in terms of employment, traveling. Some countries you can't go to if you've got a criminal record. Like America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, you can't go there. You can't get a job. It affects your housing. It affects insurance. Like if you want to get a car insured or insure your house one day, a lot of insurance companies don't want to insure you. So I know the impact of a criminal record, and that's one thing for me. I don't want any student. That's what I wanted to take away. Don't commit any form of crime to get a criminal record.
Real quick before you go, can you just list all like website URL and stuff like that, so people who are listening who want to find out more can?
Yep. There's a website called Fearless.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Fearless. They're very, very good. St. Giles Trust in London are very good. They do a lot of work around gangs and county lines for the London lot as well. In fact, Kent Police Crime Commissioner is actually funding them to do a bit of work around county lines in Kent as well. They are very good. The Children's Society is also very good. And yeah, I'll recommend those websites, definitely.
As well as your own.
And Reform, Restore, Respect, of course.
Thank you for taking the time to speak to us today, Francis.
No, thank
It's
you.
very much appreciated.
Pleasure.
Thank you for listening as well.